Shalom, this is Sophia, the Ameru Khan Mariam, and we're here with another video on the timeline. Now, in a previous video, I explained that the timeline was wrong and nobody knew what they were talking about, and it was getting extremely frustrating. So, I have made this chart to explain a little bit of what's going on, and all those people who call themselves quote unquote watchers would probably be interested in this. So we're going to start with the slice that is Virgo. Now, I already mentioned this in the previous video. I'm not going to go into this too much, but this is the proper way to look at the zodiac wheel. The one that everyone looks at, no one questions, is backwards and upside down. And so this zodiac wheel actually goes in clockwise order as opposed to counterclockwise. So that's the first mistake that everyone has made on this. And so a little quick background. The reason why this came to be is because one of the sisters and I kept saying that the time was wrong. Something was wrong with the time. And so we set out to figure out what was going on with this timeline, because there's no way that the cross was 2,000 years ago. It feels like it was yesterday. And this is what we came up with. So as I mentioned in my last video, Elder Allman had a sigil that came to him from 84 years in the future. 84 years plus this sigil came to him in the Shema in 2016. So 84 plus 84 plus 2016 is 2100. And you can see on the spiral here, 2100, we will be going into Virgo, we'd be going into the Hermit energy, and it would make sense that when we got to that point, somebody, perhaps our higher selves, realized that we had not advanced enough. Because what happens in the Hermit card is basically at the end of that time period, you have to make a choice. And you need enough time to understand what your choice is in order to make the right choice. So coming into that time period, someone must have realized we didn't have enough information to make a choice soon enough. So if you will notice, each one of these time slices is 108 years. So currently we are in Leo. We have been in Leo since 1992 and will be in Leo until 2100. And so what you'll notice about the Leo card is that it is the strength card. And the strength card is about the woman, particularly the melanated woman, but we'll get into that at a different time. But the woman in general using her own inner strength to control the lion. If we were in Aquarius, which you will see on the opposite side of that, then we would have a masculine energy that was in charge, that had to use the sun and the moon energies to get his work done. And so we are not in that time period. We are in the time period of quiet inner strength. And if you have noticed, since 1992, the attacks on the melanated woman have basically been through the roof. And so this is why you have this happening, because we are coming into our strength. We are coming into our power, and we don't need anything. All we need is what we have inside of us. And that's what they don't want. Okay, so from 1992 to 1884, we were in the Chariot energy, and that's like a building yourself up. And again, if you know anything about history, this would be kind of around Reconstruction. But in this time period, you had a lot of flourishing Black businesses and businesses in general. But I'm trained in Black history, so I just refer to that. And so anyway, you had a lot of flourishing Black businesses, a lot of self-made millionaires, a lot of self-made millionaires in that time. And so you would have had that energy going on. So from 1776 to 1884, you would have the Lover's energy, and that's air, that's optimism. Of course, 1776, that's when the United States was quote unquote turned into a country. And from the beginning of this country until 1884, you do have a time period where people loved it. People were in love with America. America was flourishing. Everything was great. And it was, it's like rose colored glasses. And with the Lover's card, that's essentially what you have. You have an angel that's guiding your every footstep to make sure no foot goes unplaced. And that's what you have. That's the energy that you have with the Lover's card. Okay, so from 1668 to 1776, you have the Hierophant, which is the female pope. And so this would have been a time where what was really going on was this, like the Salem witch trials and all of that stuff. You have a lot of women, folk magic workers who were murdered at this time, were called witches, and this was really a time of great suffering for the feminine energy, divine feminine energy, due to the roll up of power as related to the Crusades, right? Okay, so at the start of this period, which I always refer to the spring equinox as the start, you have the birth of Jesus, okay? And you can call him Yeshua, you can call him whatever you want, it doesn't matter. This is when you have the birth of Jesus and his really bringing the Holy Spirit down to people. That's the most important part of his birth, is the Holy Spirit having descended upon the people. And this would have happened on this timeline at 1560. And from 1560 to 1668, 108 years, you had the followers of Jesus going around and making disciples out of people. You have all of the miracles of the saints. You have a lot of different stuff going on. And so I'm not going to go into the whole rest of the spiral. I just wanted to point out that this time period starts with the full energy, and the full energy, it would be the birth of optimism, the birth of the Son of God, God in the flesh, and that is 1560 on this time, on this spiral. And so let's look at the Aquarius spiral, okay? So here's the Aquarius spiral. If we were going into the age of Aquarius, right? And I will explain how this works really quickly. On this spiral, you have the full energy, the age of Aries, starting with Abraham. And there's lots of biblical reasons about that, and we'll discuss that more. But before Abraham, you have Enoch, then you have Adam and Eve, then you have the reign of Adam, and you have the reign of Lilith. So from 132 BCE to 2028, you have Jesus out here as the primary influencing figure. Let's put it that way. And so the reason why people believe this is because on this timeline, you have the earth being, just back to Lilith, you can find 10 million years. I mean, this is 10,000 BCE when the age of Lilith began, which would be the strength card. And so it would be taking, each one of these slices is 2160 years. And if you notice, that is a very odd number because it is 108 doubled. And so on the mother spiral here, you have, this is every 108 years. In this spiral, you have 2160. So you can see how the timelines would have been. In most cases, each day is like 4 days, which would be kind of like the Mercurian energy. If you've heard any of my other videos on this topic. But this is basically what happened. They took this time period because they would, and the whole 2028 issue is an issue I will discuss in a later video. I don't want to get into that because it's going to be too confusing as it is. So the age of Pisces is going to be over in 2028. And once the age of Pisces is over on this timeline, then they would have the option to go into Aquarius if we were following this timeline. But this is not the timeline that we're on. This is an obsolete program, basically. And so it's clear that this is not what's happening. You're not going, backwards. This is the problem with this timeline. It is based on going backwards. Whereas on this timeline, we're going forwards. We start from Jesus and we come forward to now. On this timeline, we start from Jesus and we go backwards to Lilith. That doesn't make any sense. Meaning, on this timeline, we can see where we're going forward at, right? But on this timeline, we can't really see much before Lilith, and I definitely have no idea what's supposed to be happening after Jesus. So this is there's I mean, maybe the Most High will reveal some more information now that I've put this on paper, but this seems like a very difficult way to discern what's going on. Um, So yeah, I just wanted to point out this in order for this to be in order for us to be going into Aquarius, this is where we would be going. And then another thing, let's go back over here real quick. The age of Aquarius is the age where you use the sun and the moon to do magic, to control, to influence the things. And I just don't think that that's true. I think we've already gone through. I mean, I think we've already gone through that. You know, I don't think we're going to go back into magic. And that's one thing that, you know, the devil really wants, is because it would be easier for us to be going back into magic. He controls a lot of the sorcery and stuff. And with sorcery, you have a lot of worship involved. These people worship these entities. So, of course, they would want to be going back into the worship of the demons, and even some angels, you know, probably might desire to be worshipped. So of course they would want this, but this is just simply not accurate. However, we can use this to our advantage. So if we know that the age of Jesus is right now, this is why you use Jesus. This is the age that he's ruling over. When we're in the age of Abraham, we called on, you know, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. When we're in the time of Enoch, we called on the God of Enoch. When the time of Adam and Eve, we called on the God of Adam and Eve. You know, this is how you do these things. If you don't understand that this is what's going on, then you don't know who can advocate for you. So if you're trying to do, you know, healing of your past lives or something like that, you may need to call on the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob if you're trying to heal something that's that far back in this other timeline. So it's not to say that this timeline is wrong and this timeline is right. What I'm saying is that this timeline where we're going to be going into Aquarius does not apply. Not that it's wrong, it just doesn't apply. We're not going into Aquarius. You know, maybe some of you are. Again, I said you may choose to go into Aquarius if that's your choice. However, I'd much rather be on a 108-year timeline, because we can get through this thing much faster. Plus, you can live much longer on this timeline, because time goes faster. If you're on this timeline, you haven't been around since the age of Lilith. Forget that. That's not possible. 2,000 years is a long time to live. You know, the reign of Jesus is coming to an end. And it's very apparent in the scriptures, especially the talk of the bridegroom and all of that stuff. It's apparent that his reign is almost over. So instead of being tied to that, where his reign is almost over, you can tie yourself into this timeline where you use the divine feminine energy to gather your strength. And so this just makes more sense for me. Maybe for some men it might not be as comfortable. However, I implore you to at least think about this, give it a chance. And of course, this is your girl Sophia, and we'll see you in the next video.